Hello, my name is Helfurion. I've been playing Path of Exile for quite a long time now, a few years. I think I've been playing since I want to say just a, just before open beta ended, so quite a while now. And I always wanted to create some kind of content. I'm not sure if guides or impression videos or just killing stuff, because that's what this game is all about. But I thought what I would do is I would do a kind of a breach season journey. So I would kind of show the characters that I chose to develop and build, kind of at what points I was bottlenecked on currency and what I wanted to do next. So the idea behind this is kind of just to ramble on and discuss, things that I liked, things that I didn't like, things about the build and the state of the game, what I find fun, what's not so fun, and just kind of share some ideas and you know put some content out there for people to kind of watch and see my perspective on the game. Um, some things will be things you've seen before, some things might be new, but kind of just put something out there, have somebody enjoy it. I think that'll be cool. So Breach Season, uh, it features these awesome wings. So that was my primary goal. I mean, aside from having fun, I never had a back attachment in this game, and they offered it as something for getting 36 challenges. So I said, all right, well, let's make a fun build and let's get ourselves 36 challenges done and get that sweet back attachment. These awesome wings. So I guess my first character, as you can see, is Explosive Arrow. I had never done Explosive Arrow before, so I wanted a build that would do good damage, great clear speed, and be quite budget. And budget is kind of thrown around these days, and some people say, "Oh, it's less than 3 exalts. It's a budget build." What I consider a budget build is something that you can build on 2 exalts maximum, and this is definitely a 2 exalts maximum build. Um, so the way that you level this build is you just get a 4 link at some point. You put in Firestorm, and you just Firestorm stuff. And then once you ascend and you get Beacon of Ruin, you go and you switch your Firestorm to Flame Blast, because what happens is with Chance to Ignite and Conflux, you ignite very reliably, and when you kill anything with Ignite, Beacon of Ruin essentially proliferates that to everything else. So leveling with this build is quite easy because you get area damage nodes, fire damage nodes, and life nodes. So that's basically it. Um, this is your run-of-the-mill explosive arrow build. One of the major differences from other builds is it doesn't really get resolute technique, but it's kind of common now that everyone gets elemental overload, because getting accuracy for this build is quite easy. You get 40% here. If you really wanted to, you could get an extra 30% here. You get 1 piece of gear with accuracy on it. And then what I opted to do is with Liege of the Primordial, you essentially get double the buff from your elemental golems. So this essentially fixed my accuracy and crit chance problems. So this build attacks very quickly, and so that way it always has elemental overload up in maps. And in terms of the chance to hit, on level 92, the highest mob in the game is level 84. So basically, I'm hitting that shaper guy 90% of the time. So you're basically good. You're fine. If you really wanted to, you can get another piece of accuracy on ring or something, and yeah, you'd be fine. But basic gist of this build is get as much life as possible. And then your jewels, I elected to go overcap for elemental weakness. So it's really efficient to get jewels with damage, life, and a bit of resists. You can also just go with 3 prop jewels like this. Really budget. You know, you won't spend more than, I want to say, 3 to 4 chaos on things like these, especially early in the league. People throw these out there fairly often for not that much price. Obviously, if you're looking for another damage prop or another life, that's when people start to gouge you on prices on jewels, and it gets kind of unpleasant. Um, so, what other way to showcase a nice build than to go to Dried Lake? So, the idea behind this build is shoot a couple arrows in a direction. Those arrows explode after a short time, and then things die. And as you can see, if they don't die, and there's a nice ignite on them, they will die to the ignite. So, fairly established build. I could make a build guide if people wanted to, but there's quite a few many out there. So this is the multi-target build. You know, obviously in Dried Lake, I only really need to shoot 1 arrow and everything dies. In maps, you might need to shoot a few more. This is juicy pro lifts. Look at all that. See if I can find Bull here. So it's really cool stuff. You have Frenzy, so you also build Frenzy charges, but you don't have to, especially if you're killing things fairly often. I have the Blood Dance. Blood Dance gives you Frenzy charge and kill, and so long as you consistently kill things, you don't have to use Frenzy. But when you're fighting bosses, you're obviously not killing things fairly often in high tier maps, so you know you want to have your Frenzy setup. And Frenzy also has flammability on it, so it's pretty useful for bosses as well as Frenzy charge generation. Frenzy charge is just more attack speed, more damage, and more damage increases your ignites, so why not? Basic metagame nowadays is you stack as many more multipliers as possible. If you're an elemental build, you use whatever corresponding penetration it is, or you're an inquisitor, and you basically kill things. So here's Vol. So one thing that you can do is when they summon dudes, right? He's gonna summon dudes. You blow them up, and then you see how they apply ignite, or you swap. I just swapped to another weapon, and you apply ignite to him, and he dies. So he didn't even die to ignite. He just died to the one shot. But as you can see there, that's a 1 charge ignite. So basically what you do to bosses is you drop a decoy totem, they're distracted, you shoot 5 things into them, it blows up, they die. So yeah, that's the basic build. So this build is pretty awesome for the budget. For the longest time, I didn't even have the Combs Heart. I just played chestless. I didn't even care. I was like, you know what's the point in equipping anything? I mean, whatever. Get a little bit of max life on a chest piece, throw that on, who cares? Eventually, I saved enough money for the, I think it's called Pride Before the Fall. You get the Corrupted Combs Heart, and I got a perfect one with +1 level of socketed gems for the memes. It's pretty funny. But yeah, that was my first lucky thing. Everything else, I was really unlucky. So one of the things that I was really salty about this league was that I got no 6 links. So this one, I tried to 6 socket. It is the item level that you can 6 socket it, so I'm not a noob. I wasted hundreds of jewelers, got no 6 socket. No, I'm not gonna reach you a 6 socket. You're out of your mind. Didn't get it, so I just Jewelers touched it. Cost me like 25 chaos. Alright, fine. My first 5 link, I'm happy. And then when I was doing bosses early on, I would just swap to Conk Effect, and that would be fine. But later on, I got really annoyed at all the swapping I had to do for the harder bosses because I wanted to start getting slower projectiles in, and I wanted to start for another 6 link. So I managed to 6 socket this one. This one worked out. Unfortunately, didn't work out with the 6 link. I spent quite a few fusings, didn't get it. But it was nice. Rear guard cost nothing, just like an AUK whatever. Um, this early in the league was quite expensive, so I waited. Um, I'll show you what I used instead. It is called Starkonja's Hood or Head. Where are you at? Yes, Starkonja's Head. So Starkonja's Head is perfectly viable. Costs me like a chaos. Gives you crit chance, max life, attack speed. Perfect. It's just when you're killing the maps really fast, you want that move speed. So eventually, I got a Devotos for like 15 chaos when the price dropped. But I found no cool uniques to sell, no items with awesome mods. Like usually I find like a ridiculous dagger or something like that in the league. I identified so many rares that were just complete garbage, and I felt so let down. And that was something that really made me salty this league, was the fact that I didn't find anything. I didn't even find the 5 link until I was like level 88 or something like that. It was just such ridiculous bad luck on this character. Um, this is the other item that costs a little bit. I think the Prophecy will early in the league cost like 13 chaos or something like that. Um, I had one. It was all right. It had less than 60% fire damage, so I decided to go for another one when I got the Prophecy again, and I got pretty lucky on the roll, so I got a 65% fire damage roll. Run-of-the-mill flasks, nothing special. I like to roll mine to have 2 uses instead of increased duration. It's just preference, really. So weaknesses of this build: anything that's ignite immune. So you can't do Atsiri, and you can't do Forge of the Phoenix boss. You have to make another build for that. Something that I guess GGG wants to incentivize. You have multiple characters for multiple things. My goal this league was to get the wings, not necessarily Atlas completion, but I did go for as many budget, Shaper's Orbs, so that I could get nice maps. I wanted over 100% completion so that I could get decent returns. And other than that, at least one tier 16, so that once I got to tier 16s, I could just sell them, because this build wasn't planned to do Shaper. I was going to try to do another build with better single target, and we'll get into that more when I get to my second character. But even with Ignite, these bosses, these tier 16 bosses, they have so much life that you're going to be fighting them for quite a long time, and it's really annoying. Like Hydra with damage mods, just no. With life mods, no. Like even with ridiculous ignite numbers, you're still fighting that boss for 5 to 7 minutes, just because there's not very many windows for you to hit that boss and not get gibbed by all the things that are happening on the screen. The other thing that's really fun, despite its massive life and life regen, is it doesn't have good mitigation. I mean, for that amount of time, you have decent, I guess, physical mitigation. It's okay. Your armor gets crushed though. Like this doesn't mean anything. Like everything in the game, when it hits you for like 4,000. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you're a range build. Stay that way. You can take a big hit, but that's about it. You can't take 2 big hits. Not really. In breaches, your damage is really good. However, if there's an added damage mod, you're probably going to die. The real MVP of this build is Decoy Totem. They nerfed it, but it's still amazing. If they hadn't nerfed it, this build probably wouldn't die very often at all, if ever. For bosses, it's perfect. It has enough life that it takes them pretty long to kill it, so it lets you, pop your stuff, blink around, drop another one. That's the general strategy for bosses. So this build was pretty fun. I guess if I had to rank it on a letter scale, F to A or something, I would give this build a B+. Has some weaknesses, ignite immunities, kind of annoying, but I really didn't plan this build to do Atsiri or Shape or anything like that. And if you do the Grand Spectrum build, you can essentially give the Shaper very quickly. I just, obviously I wanted this to be a quote-unquote budget build. So it's one of those things. So my currency generation this league was really terrible. Basically, if I completed a breachstone stack, I would just do it, no problem. I could do all of these easily. Chiulas, I mean, I didn't get to do one until I think a while. I managed in all my days played. How much do I have on this character? I have 4 days played on this character. A lot of this is me just sitting around in town, fucking around, and trading, and also planning another build. So I would say a good amount is probably like 3 days, like 3 days of like active playing and trying to be efficient in my mapping and things like that. I stopped picking up low tier maps, but yeah, I had those. The way that I organize them is just 7s, 8s, 9s, 3 rows of 10s, 3 rows of 11s, 3 rows of 12s. And then these are the scarce maps. So basically, when I'm a high level, I just dip from these. When I'm a lower level, I dip from these. The efficient sweet spot for a build like this is probably 11s and certain 12s if the layouts are good, like Shipyard. Shipyard is awesome. What else did I do? I mean, I would consider this league a success. I managed to get almost every of the other breach items and upgrade them. You know, Soft's Blood, Ulnatol's, got his shield. So I got pretty lucky later in the league, but at the start, which is when it's most important, I got pretty terrible luck. So the build was able to do Hydra solo, and pretty much do most maps with some frustrating deaths to breaches, because when this character was made, they didn't do the whole allies cannot die thing. So basically, you get a tool and a rare spawns, allies cannot die. You can't kill that guy because your single target isn't fast enough to kill him. It's an added damage mod map. They kill you because there's just a million of them. Then when they fixed that, the deaths of this build basically were non-existent, except if I did really rippy maps. The only map mod this build cannot do is Elemental Reflect. Even with Paragon of Calamity, you just do so much insane damage that if you shoot one pack, you're lucky if you don't one-shot yourself. It's just one of those things that it's really frustrating to die Reflect, so just don't do Elemental Reflect maps. If you really wanted to, you could put on a Sibyl's Lament and maybe take out one gem that increases your damage, and then you could probably do that Reflect map. But I would not recommend that. It's no fun. But yeah, it's the only map mod that I couldn't do. So on to the next character.